Welcome to Peaceful Streaming. So, I'm continuing on huh, with the birthday update for Power Wash Simulator, and I didn't notice this stuff yesterday, so I'm going to read it. The Dune rocket. This exhibit was placed here in memory of Mayor Jeff Jefferson X in office 1865 to 1885. When the dust finally settled, the mayor was nowhere to be found. He had ridden out of town on a rail and into the sunset, never to return again. I think that's what the current mayor did too. In using different transportation. Um, Bigfoot strikes again. Was this like gas station? No, is that my stuff? Is that like what I theoretically am using for water? I don't know. Um, like I said, theoretically, since we don't really. I wonder how far I can go. At some point, I won't be able to go any further. I'm just curious as to what that car is. Yeah, I can't go any further, I don't think. No. Well, it was worth a shot, obviously. I didn't think I would be able to, but it's always fun to see. Okay, so I should think I'll be able to finish this. I think. There are parts of a water pump. Um, yeah, this one has been somewhat difficult, more difficult than I would have thought it would be. Um, Not just because of all the weird, angles and stuff, but also just because some parts have been really hard to get the dirt off of. Um, or the dirt on some things has been really tenacious. I'm actually, for the first time in a while, doing this because I'm stressed out because we've been dealing with our health insurance company, and they're refusing to um, renew our son's prescription for name brand antidepressants. And now, I think I've mentioned before. Now, my son and I have a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel. Although my son insists you're supposed to say TikTok account for people with depression and anxiety, and he talks about his own depression all the time. So I am not, I'm not revealing anything that he hasn't openly talked about. Um, but so it's frustrating and scary because he since he was first diagnosed with depression has had suicidal ideation. So that means he thinks about suicide when he's depressed. And so if you're a parent, it's not a huge stretch probably to imagine how you would feel in our situation. So so I wrote a letter because emails are so easy to do that companies don't pay as much attention to them. I know when someone wrote a letter that it was a much um, longer and inconvenient process than just sending an email. So they do tend to, when you get a letter, I know from being in that position, you're like, huh, okay, well, this person was serious. Or else you're gonna send it, registered mail so that someone has to sign for it. It obviously will be someone in the mailroom, but we will have proof that they got it, and then that also tends to make people take things a little more seriously. So, because it's just ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. He tried generic for the last couple months because they just arbitrarily all of a sudden were like, yeah, no, you don't need name brand. And so I was concerned because I've been through um, some problems with generics. And but we decided, he agreed, he said I'll give it a shot. And so like 2 months later now he's severely depressed. So so my husband said, well, we have to file an appeal, but they have up to 30 days to process it. And I was like, screw that. We're not waiting 30 days at all. And so I laid out the situation, and I mentioned in the letter, and I said, no, I'm not being subtle about this. My son and I have a TikTok channel for people with depression and anxiety that has, to our shock and surprise, has one video that got over 1 million views and other videos that got tens to or hundreds of thousands of views. And hopefully someone at the company is smart enough to realize that nowadays the way that a lot of these stories appear on like the Today Show, the morning shows and stuff like that, is because someone at those places is just looking for videos that that are of interest. And so one of us telling our story and making some videos on how my son is severely depressed because the health insurer, which we would name, and I said this in the letter, is refusing to pay for name brand, even though the doctor said it's medically necessary that he have name brand. So I've worked at like high levels in some companies, and including one health insurer. And so I know that when you're talking to the person in customer service, they have quotas to meet, and they also have only a certain amount of power, but and scope. But when you get higher up, then those people are looking at things like liability, bad publicity, you know, stock price. Could bad publicity affect the stock price? Could bad publicity affect the insurers, you know, ads about how much they care about the patients and stuff like that. So, but mostly about the stock price, because that's what it all comes down to. Hey, Lua. Well, I'm working from home because fortunately I'm able to do that. But yeah, I'm still recovering. I feel better than I did yesterday. I'm actually playing this because I'm incredibly stressed out. I was just talking about how my son's our insurance company is refusing to pay for the name brand antidepressants, and so my son's like extremely depressed, and when he's depressed, he's suicidal, and so he's like, "Don't worry, Mom, I'm not going to do anything stupid," but he's suffering, and it's really bad. He's been on generics for the last couple months because they just randomly were like, and arbitrarily were like, "Yeah, no, we're not going to fill yours with name brand anymore." So, and then his doctor filed something saying it needs to be, he said that name brand was medically necessary, and they were like, "Yeah, no, nope." So we have to do an appeals process, but that takes 30 days. And I was like, screw that. I'm not waiting 30 days. Our son's not waiting 30 days. And so we're sending a registered letter to the CEO and the chief medical officer, who will, I'm sure, never see it, but someone will probably route it to someone else and say, yeah, this might be a good idea to. Oh, wow. No way. Is it that? So they get summer break starting in May? That's insane. I mean, for us, it's like even when we were in Connecticut and in California, it was, well, in Connecticut, because you had snow days, it was usually mid-June. And, of course, depending on how many snow days you had. And then here in California, it was always like the last day in the first week of June. So it was earlier because obviously no snow days. Yeah, um so since I've been working for the university, we've tried a couple different plans. And I used to work for an HMO. I mean, I know all the calculations that go into it. I worked in operations. And I was the executive assistant for the director of operations. And so, I got all these calls where people were like, you know, um, where they so and then I would pass them on to my boss, and then she would generally pass them to someone and say, please explain your justification. And the justification always was basically what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to deny a certain number of um, claims, certain number of requests. And sometimes also then they will, like HMOs especially, will be like, yeah, um, we know you want this hospital, but our research has shown that this hospital is blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they'll say it's because it's better outcomes or this or that and whatever. And I've been in some of the high level meetings taking notes. And yeah, I mean, if they're publicly traded, it's all about that. If they're not publicly traded, it's all about how much money can they make. So I'm definitely not naive about that. Oh, that's weird because that's about when my son used to go back and um yeah. Well, no, actually. His last school, which he went to for middle school and high school, I think they started midweek, like the second week in August. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that the number of school hours are mandated federally. I think they're mandated, um, I think they're probably either mandated by each state or I don't think there are federal hours. I mean, I could be wrong. This is not my forte, but so, yeah, no, I mean, I hate dealing with this. We had like, the medicine I take for my MS every single month. It goes to a specialty pharmacy, and that has like a lot of really unhappy reviews from patients, and so every single month, if I answer the automated system one to like say, okay, we know we need to refill your medicine, and so the automated thing will always say, it looks like your copay is, or we can't figure out what your copay is. But you'll be responsible if, your health insurance insurer doesn't cover the whole thing. And then one time the automated system said to me, we show your copay as $900. Is that correct? And I was like, no. And, because my medicine is really expensive. And, so then I hung up and like talked to a real person. But then this time, when I talked to a real person, when they called the other day, they were like, yeah, we're showing your copay. We can't figure out what your copay is. And I'm like, yeah, no, she's like, well, so you'll just have to work it out with your health insurance. And I'm like, no, I don't, because my health insurer, when I talk to them, they'll say that my copay is zero. How does that help if you guys don't know what it is? It's something with your, it's like this specialty pharmacy every single month. We have to, they're like, oh, our system's not showing what your copay is. And I said to this lady the other day, listen, when I go to CVS, they know what my copay on everything is. When I go to Walgreens, they know what my copay is on everything. The only place where I have trouble with any, you know, with consistently have trouble with a system not knowing my copay is your company's system. And I said, it doesn't make, so I said, so she was saying, well, you just need to check with your health insurer as far as and find out what your copay is. I'm like, no, my health insurer will say your copay is zero. I'll say, yep, you're right. And I said, and then how does that information get to you? Tell me. And she was like, well, no, you just have to check. And I said, no, 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 no. How is that information when I call my health insurer and they agree with me that my copay is zero? How are you going to get that information other than me calling back and saying, yep, just as I thought, my health insurer said my copay is zero. So will you go ahead? I was like, so when that happens, will whoever I talk to say, oh, okay, great. Okay, so we'll send it through and your copay is zero. Yeah, I mean, it's really so like I said, we've had um and one reason actually my first experience with someone having trouble with generics, in fact, was my sister. Her anti-seizure medicine um got switched to a generic, and they did, the blood tests to find out what the levels were to make sure it was at a therapeutic level. And many times it was not. And so she ended up testifying before Congress when they were looking into generics, and talking about her experience. But yeah, I mean, so I've been with the university for almost 15 years. We've tried a couple different plans, and also they've changed the plans a lot over the years. And so we've had mixed results. But the consistency, I mean, it's consistently that this happens occasionally because they're trying to make money. I think they just do this randomly. Like they have random, they like randomly pick patients where they're just going to like change it to generic, and they're hoping that people will just give up. And in some cases, sure. I mean, I don't care. There's some medicines I take that are generic. I don't care. They work. It's fine. Others I can't take generic. So, that's what you have to fight for. Um, but yeah, it's I mean, like I was saying, I'm sure any parent can understand, given that our son's was diagnosed with depression when he was 7. So for 12 years he's been on antidepressants, and he, unlike me, and this is just somehow the chemical look of the draw, I don't really get it. When he's depressed, he's suicidal. I never am. It's just one of those things where I got lucky and he didn't. And so as I was saying earlier, any parent, I'm sure, can relate to how freaked out we are. And when my husband told me, well, we have to do an appeal, but they have 30 days to process the appeal, I was like, yeah, he's like only showering like once a week now, okay? Which is for him, he showers, he like may miss a day once in a while, but he showers every day. I mean, it's like it's just one of those things that And he's assured me, he's like, Mom, I'm not going to do anything stupid. But I'm like, yeah, there's no way he's going through 30 days. So I just wrote this letter, and um, kind of like mildly threatened that, not only do we have a TikTok account that has one video that has over 1 million views, others that have tens or hundreds of thousand views, but also that my mom worked for Time Magazine and still has many, many contacts in the media, and that I haven't told her what's going on because I know she would go nuclear and start writing, emailing everyone she knows, and you know, seeing if they can get our story out there. And I don't want to do that unless absolutely necessary. So, I mean, my mom's retired. She's got plenty of time. She, I mean, she's on Facebook. All she would need to do probably is, because so many people she knows from Time Magazine are on Facebook. She just posts something saying, "Hey, does anyone, can anyone see writing an article about this for their publication? Because that would be super, you know." Um, so it's just, I was like, yeah, I'm not. I said in the letter, yeah, I'm not being subtle about about you know what what I will do to get the story out if this isn't reversed. But I don't have time. This is ridiculous. He's suicidal. See, here's what their calculation is. The Most of the mental health stuff is handled by another insurer that specifically deals with mental health. So my guess is that if he had to go to, an inpatient at a hospital, for, a mental hospital, or, mental ward, or whatever you want to call it, chances are I think that would be paid for by the other insurer. And so their calculation is, well, even if he has to be admitted, we're not the ones paying for it. So the benefit to us is just taking a chance, because what could go wrong, basically. For us, what could go wrong? It's not like, if he had a medical condition and they denied him treatment for that, and he had to go in the hospital because of it, they would have to pay that. In this case, they wouldn't have to pay the bills for him being inpatient for his depression. So, so that is probably what their calculation is. I'm sure they have all sorts of software that can choose who is a good choice to start denying, care to. So it's depressing. So I'm actually going to shift to the mini golf, because I thought I might finish this one, but not so much. And then I'll do a little on the fountain too. So, yeah, I mean, it's despicable. It's absolutely 100% despicable. But they're a business. They basically, what they care about, bottom line, and that all the decisions are based on, for the most part, until someone makes a stink, is bringing more money to their shareholders. And that's exactly what all their calculations, that's what their calculations prioritize. So, and I don't blame them for trying to make money, but I'm not going to go through waiting 30 days so we can have them look at the information that is right there for them already. And I'm not, we jumped through some hoops. My husband was on the phone for hours so far with representatives, and they denied, the authorization. And again, it's not an authorization; it's a reauthorization, because he was on brand name. So it was just that they decided to deauthorize it of their own accord, for the next upcoming prescription. So so I'm one of those people, and by the way, it looks like my son and by extension me, because I was also talking to his doctor, and it looks like, and he and I have talked about this, and we have many symptoms in common, like identical. It looks like he and I are both on the mild end of the autism spectrum. So, um, which is what I think probably accounts for the fact that both of us are extremely logical. And so when something isn't logical, it drives us nuts. Like, my husband knows that like, one thing I can't stand is hypocrisy. It just, it makes me, it just like infuriates me. But also, I'm extremely logical. So when something isn't logical, it, it, it drives me crazy. So when I hear a lot of BS from, insurance companies and stuff, it's like, one of the reasons I have my husband handle it is because I'm like, not, I mean, I'll say to people, listen, I know this is not your decision. I know that you really have no control over this. And so I am absolutely not going to take this out on you. That said, since I know you don't have a lot of power in this situation, I would like to escalate it to the next level. So I never take it out on someone unless they're being rude to me. But at the same time, for them, like, when people are trying to like give me all kinds of BS, I do tend to start going, wait, just stop. I'm like, I'm not like, I understand it's the company line and it's what they're supposed to say, but I'm kind of like, you're insulting my intelligence because you're being completely illogical. And so I like, I mean, it was just one of these things that, um, like that and some other things my son and I were talking about, and we were, because he did start doing a lot of research because people started telling him that he knows, like online, we're like, have you ever been tested for being autistic? And he was like, no, why? And then he started reading and he was showing me this stuff, and I was like, yeah, but I I thought that was normal. I thought everyone was like that. And he was like, yeah, that's what I thought too. Apparently not. So, we were just like, wait, isn't everyone like that? Just for these various things. And it just was like so funny because we've always had a lot in common. But when we had this discussion like a couple weeks ago, we were just cracking up because we were, he'd like say something, some symptom, and I'd be like, wait, what do you mean? Isn't that like normal? Doesn't everyone feel that way? And he was like, he'd say, no, I feel that way, and I guess you feel that way, but what's normal to us is not normal to other people. And I was like, this is so weird, you know oh, yeah, no, the insurance can totally overrule the doctor. No, that's what is really scary. I mean, granted, I know that some doctors will just go, "Hey, yeah, let's just put brand name medically necessary." And that's what I think that's what they're trying to weed out to some extent. So, she's going to have to now, instead of saying brand name medically necessary, so she now has to basically write a report that says, so he's been on brand name for, I think it's been years. I think he's been on this medication, Wellbutrin, that we both take for years. He's had some other stuff to supplement it, and I think maybe a couple times they tried switching him to something, but it's been successful. His depression is mostly successfully treated with, Wellbutrin. The pandemic has been kind of rough, so he's not doing as well as he was before the pandemic, but who is. So, um so then she's going to have to write something that says, yeah, he was doing fine. Then his prescription was switched to bupropion instead of name brand. He actually takes something called 450. He's really, he's 6'3", and he's big. He's not skinny. And so I take 400, whatever it is, milligrams or something like that a day. He takes 450 because he's so big. And so now she has to write something saying basically, yeah, no, okay, I'm serious about that, and here's the proof. He was fine. He went on it. He went on the generic. Starting this date. 2 weeks ago, he basically hit. I don't know, however they say it, but she's going to say basically that 3 weeks ago, he started realizing he was profoundly depressed. 2 weeks ago, he contacted my office and said that the generic wasn't working. He reported that he's rarely showering, is suicidal ideation, blah, 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 blah. So, but the thing is, if it were me, if this were for me, I'd be willing to wait the 30 days that they have to process the appeal. First of all, it's my child, so already not really willing to wait. And secondly, he has suicidal ideation. I don't. I never have. So I'd be willing to wait. I'm not willing to have him wait. There's just no way in hell. So that's why I wrote the letter. I can't imagine that they would be stupid enough. I mean, like I said, this is all a calculation. So they look at the potential, the possible fallout. I mean, I made it clear that I have ways to get attention for our story. And also the hook of mother and son who both suffer from depression, I think, has been something that's made us stand out a little from other people. And so they they look at their, maybe consult their PR people who say, well, yeah, that story definitely could have legs. And it's, and then they talk to probably legal. If they go this far, they may just be like, yeah, based on the experience of the person who opens the mail, they may, probably check with someone else, but then be like, yeah, that's just, it's not worth the possible risk. I mean, the university I work at, they weren't taking, this was before I started working there, but what I gather is they weren't taking access to classes for disabled students, who were physically, had mobile challenges. They weren't taking it seriously enough. And then a student and their parents brought suit against the university, because the child, and I saw this when I worked in the department that scheduled classrooms. There was one place you could only reach by elevator, and it was like impossible to reach. It was literally you couldn't reach it any other way. And the elevator broke down and it didn't get fixed for months. Now, granted, we're a state school and we're poor, but still. But I've seen it, so I know that this was legitimate. So they sued the university. The university settled for a fair amount of money, and ever since then, they're real skittish when it comes to any disability problems. So, so companies are the same way. And they'll be like, so how much of a potential problem do you think this could be? And while shareholders and investors they don't want the companies to like just, be really proactive about the potential problems. They also don't want there to be messiness. So they expect that a company will take care, that the company they're invested in will take steps to make sure that something that could have been handled quietly and very simply doesn't blow up. They expect that the company is going to make these calculations that um, you know because the problem is sometimes these narratives, they won't go away even after the particular person who sparked it is out of the picture, taking care of it in one way or another. It can have a life of its own, and other people can come forward and be like, hey, yeah, I didn't think there was anything I could do, but um, now that I know, I mean, basically, now that I know I'm not the only one, and also that it's a widespread problem with you guys screwing people over. Um, hey, I'm here, and I want, I want to tell my story. So, like I said, they make these calculations, and um, the investors expect that they are going to do a good job of making these calculations. So it's possible this will never, it'll never have to um, be reviewed by PR and legal and everything, because they've been through this stuff before. So hopefully, because I'm not willing to wait and watch my son suffer. So I'm willing to make as big a stink as I have to, because it's my baby. And I'm definitely, I definitely go mama bear sometimes. And I don't care if he's 19, he's still my baby. And I used to laugh when my mom would say that. Like, I would be like 40, and you'll always be my baby. And I'd be like, Mom. And then once I had a child, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Yours are arguing? Oh, yours are, because it's, oh my God, the first day. You said it was the first day, right? First day, and they're already arguing. Oh my God. Elua, I just, that's what separate rooms are for. I don't know what it's, I used to argue with my sister so much. And my mom was an only child. So my sister and I, not my youngest sister, because she was always just too young, but we'd stay with my grandparents for 2 weeks in the summer. And since my mom had been an only child, obviously she had no one to argue with. So my grandparents were just like, stop. We just bicker. Just bicker and, kind of snipe at each other, and just like keep the bickering going. And my grandparents were just like, what? We can't stop. We don't, what are you doing? So it was like, that's how siblings are. I mean, it's really irritating for the adults, but yeah, it's pretty normal. Not fun for adults, but it is definitely the way of the world. But my sister and I also are very different people. So that had something to do with it. It wasn't just the usual like, no, it's mine, it's not yours, it's mine type of thing. We are very different people. And we always have been. So that I think had something to do with the fighting. And then my sister would start crying, which is just like so unfair. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean they will, but they will protect each other. Um yeah, I remember when, so my youngest sister is 7 years younger than me. And so I was driving and I think, oh, right. My mom convinced me to, I don't think, yeah. So I had two younger sisters who weren't driving yet. My mom was working. And so she convinced me to leave my job and said she'd pay me to drive them and babysit them, which of course I had always been doing for free. Um, which then she stopped paying me after like a month, which is just like the story of my life with her. And but so what happened is I was picking my sister up at elementary school for a while. And ooh, this is the fun part though. I don't want to do this all. I'll do a little bit of the castle. And I need my ladder. So my sister told me that this kid was like physically beating her up. And so I said, well, when I pick you up, point him out to me. And so she was like me. She was always the weird, like the weird kid. Um, our middle sister just was very good at, just blending in. And now I understand a little better why with this autism thing, why like I was always the weird kid. There are some things that actually make sense now. But so the kid, so I was in high school, and so this kid was in sixth grade, and he was big, but he was still much shorter than me. So she pointed him out to me, and I went up and I said, "Hi, I'm Thea's sister." And the kid immediately got this look on his face where he was like, uh-oh, I think I know what this is about. Oh, that's, yeah. um, and I said, listen, my sister said that you've been like physically beating her up, like not just being mean and teasing her, but like actually physically harming her, like in this really nice voice, like just in this really conversational voice. And and the kid is like terrified. And I said, so I just wanted to let you know that I've been through this. I was through this myself, where there was someone who was beating me up on the school bus, and we handled it. My mom wanted to handle it. She contacted the girl's parents because it was a girl that was beating me up, slamming her math book over my head. It's a good thing I didn't have a concussion, because it was a big book. And I said, my parents contacted her parents. Her parents talked to her. It was promised that she would stop. And guess what? She didn't stop. And I said, so I know that doesn't work. So you might think I would just like want to like have my parents contact your parents. And I know that doesn't work. So if my sister tells me that you in the future have laid one finger on her, I will take care of it myself. And it won't be through talking. Now, I never would have touched this kid. I absolutely would never have touched him. But I knew that one thing that deters a bully is someone stronger than them, threatening them. So I knew that it would only need to be, I would only need to like be do my Clint Eastwood voice and be incredibly threatening, so, and it worked, but, I mean, this kid obviously didn't know I never would have touched him. So, yeah, I mean, I'm like my sister, she and I are, both my sisters were like, we have very different personalities. And it was that way from the beginning. And so my sister bugged the crap out of me all the time. She really did. But when someone was going after her, forget it. That's family. And so no one, like, it was like no one is going to bully my sister. It's just not going to happen. And so, yeah, that's the one thing that brings kids together. Sad but true. So, wow, this place is a lot bigger than I thought it was. So that's cool. Day one, younger kid is running away. Hey, that is smart. That is definitely a kid with really good self-preservation skills. Because oh yeah, my sister. So my other sister was less than 2 years younger than me. So so I guess we were fairly evenly matched size wise and strength wise. And I just remember these fights where we were each had like a handful of each other's hair, and we're pulling each other's hair, and like we had to like have a draw so many times because we were just pretty close in size and strength. So I mean, granted, we spent a lot of time together, and since we moved a lot for a while, then obviously it was good to have that. But yeah, siblings, man. No one is gonna bully my sister. That's my job. Exactly. We never like my other sister and I, the one who was 2 years younger, we shared a room for a couple of years before, like when I was 12, we moved to a new house, and when my dad built the Aframatic into rooms, mine was done first, and so I had my own room finally. And then my sisters got their own rooms too. But but yeah, I mean, it's just it's the weirdest. Like siblings can be the weirdest relationship because you can constantly find yourself saying, "Yeah, I love my sister, but," because it's just understood you're gonna love your siblings unless there's something seriously wrong with them, but you don't necessarily want to spend time with them. And as I said, we're just really really different. So one's the youngest is my half sister technically, and we look nothing alike, and our personalities are just very 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 different. And the birth order had something to do with it. She was definitely babied and indulged. So, but I always kept in mind that, you know, my dad, my step, technically originally my stepdad. I mean, we were all three of us were his daughters. He met my mom when I was two, I think, or so, and my sister was really really young. May have been a little older than that. So, um, but he told us a few years ago that my mom didn't want to hear this, but we were doing like a family thing, and I think it may have been their anniversary, like probably their 50th or something. And and so he told us that one reason he proposed to my mom on like their second date. They had kind of known each other at work, for a little while. But on their second date was because he didn't want to miss any more of our lives. He wanted to be our father. And my mom, of course, was like, wait, what? You know, that, I mean, because my mom, it's all about her. And so this was like not, my dad was so brave to say this. I mean, bless his heart. He was just like, I was like thinking, I wonder if he really thought this through. I mean, he must he probably did because he's a pretty thoughtful person, and he just I guess decided it was just gonna he was gonna say it even if it was not necessarily gonna endear him to my mom. I'm sure my mom was like because most moms would be like, wow, that's fantastic. No. So but that's what he's like. I mean, he's just freaking awesome. Um, I mean, my mom was very very lucky that she met him, and that he was interested in her because he took over these the financial and parental responsibilities. Even though our biological father was still Very much alive, very much capable of paying child support, even though he wasn't doing it. So, my dad is just very, very selfless. He's just an amazing person, and so we all were extremely lucky that she met him. I mean, the poor guy, when he started dating my mom, he's 5 years younger than her. He was 25. He was dating like models. He had a Jaguar. He had a two-seater Jaguar that he then gave up when he and my mom got married, because obviously he sold it because they needed a car that the two of us could ride in the back, obviously, and not in the trunk. So, I mean, he gave up a lot. He sacrificed a lot. And so I know I've never ever forgotten that. And he's just, you know, he's just absolutely freaking awesome. Because they can't have video games, so that's why they're complaining. Yeah, I know. They're like, there's nothing to do. Well, you could go they can go to the library. They can read. They can do science projects. There's tons of stuff they can do. They can learn how to cook. They can go outside. There's tons of stuff they can do. But always when you tell them, you give them a list of stuff to do, it's like, yeah, but I don't want to do it. That stuff's all boring. Kids are so funny. Find something for me to do, Mom. That's how often do you hear that? I mean, it's like, well, sure, but are you actually going to listen to my suggestions? Because I'm guessing no. Yeah, one thing we used to do, we used to have stuff when Lawrence was younger. We had stuff in the backyard for him to play on, and I do stuff like go out and blow bubbles with him. I mean, I have my limitations physically because of the MS, but then we had things like when it was hot, we actually were lucky. My parents bought a house that had a membership, had as part of the package. Well, they actually bought land, and this land was also, it was part of the whole deal. So they got a membership in this association, and there's a pool. So that's the other thing we did is we take our son to the pool in the summer. So that was great. I think he went last year with some friends for a day or so. Yeah, he did. That's right. I remember. But also when we couldn't go, then we have all this stuff with these great sprinklers in the backyard. I bought like all these different kinds of sprinklers. Or kinds that one was like a volcano, and it would like so the water would forget if it went up in little spurts, and then all of a sudden it'd do like a big spurt. So I spent a lot of time at Target. But let's see. Some of this stuff is real pain. Yeah, it's like, well, do you like sign them up for camps and stuff? 'Cause that was because I was always working full time the last 15 years, and my husband sometimes was traveling. So our son we always had him signed up for camps like 100% of the time in the summer, because we just didn't know if we were going to need it full time childcare or not. Oh, what is our? It's on TikTok. It's living with depression, all one word, because we couldn't get living with depression and anxiety was too long. Um, and it's got the icon is a sloth lying down. It's actually the same. So I use the same artist, their stuff. So I bought the rights to use their sloth lying on a branch happily for this one, just like chill, and then of the sloth like absolutely flat on its stomach, looking depressed as opposed to just chill. So so yeah, it doesn't represent anxiety, but I think at some point, I guess we'll see what we can do. I'm thinking like a chihuahua shaking, is probably a good representation, as close as you're going to get, since anxiety is so complex. Um, yeah, we had like so over the years we also signed him up for camps for he played baseball for a while. We signed him up for all sorts of sports camps, gymnastic camp, um, skateboarding camp, just all sorts. He did baseball camp at UC Berkeley. He just did that was taught by partially taught by members of the baseball team, and I feel like I'm not making a lot of progress on this, but that's okay. Um, I like the process is what I really enjoy. Um, Yeah, so we did a lot of sports stuff over the years. We did computer camps, we did animating camps, we did like everything. Science camps, robotic camps. That's one of the awesome things about where we live is that there were so many options. We did have problems over the years because of his ADHD and apparently now also his autism. And So, yeah, once in a while we'd get a call. You have to pick him up. He's just being too disruptive. Blah 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 blah. But it wasn't that bad. So yeah, he went to a lot of camps. I think, which of course I didn't really want to do. Then my parents do something or did something once a year that they called Camp Gray, and because that's their last name. And so my two nieces and then my son, they plan activities for them all week. They take them to museums, they do a pool day, they do all sorts of stuff. So they do that one week in the summer, and they really enjoyed that. So I mean, all of them did. So that was really nice. There was one time when we were going to teach them to sew, and so I found a pattern for like pajama pants, and my youngest sister can sew too, as well as me. And so we were gonna like teach them together. And my sister, being my sister, was like an hour late. And I had already like gone over all the concepts with them, like all the materials, and like they had already cut out, they had already cut, you know, cut out the pattern pieces, from the fabric, and they were starting. And so my sister got there, and she was like, "Oh, but we really need to go over like all the concepts and all that." And I was like, "Yeah, we did that." And she was like, "Well, what about?" And she started like still she wanted to do her spiel, so she still like started doing her spiel, and the kids were like, "We're sewing now." Yeah, I know camps are expensive. Yeah, they really are. I yeah. Yep. So what I always did is what you can do is you can have um, money taken every year. You can have money taken out of your paycheck pre-taxes. In the same way you can do it for like medical FSA, you can do it for dependent care. So, so that would, we'd say most of what the maximum we could take out per year. Most of that went to the summer camps because they were so expensive. But, and I worked at, I worked in like I was lucky, one department for 3 years where the manager was completely chill if you had to bring your kids in. You didn't even have to like ask her. You could just like show up. And she was awesome. She was just awesome in general. But so that was very helpful. And I had a friend who had two kids who ran into the same problem sometimes where, you know, they were sick or there was a gap in between camps or, whatever, something. And so we both took advantage of it. And since no students were around, we had a computer lab. And so then the kids with a screen, and then we pop the kids in there with a movie. And then we take them, across the street for frozen yogurt. And so we did have that was a very helpful situation. So, yeah, that woman was awesome. I loved her dearly. Um, but yeah, so it's you kind of just cobble stuff together. I mean, you have no choice. What else are you gonna do? You just do whatever you have to do. So, but I was very relieved once he was old enough to stay home by himself because it was so expensive. I can remember being relieved when we no longer had to pay um the diaper changing fee at his preschool. I mean, having kids is expensive. There's just no two ways about it. But I mean, we've been much more lucky than most people. I also had my parents. My parents for a while were um when George was working in the city, my parents would pick Lawrence up at school, bring him to their place, and when we're in between uh we were like had some situation where we couldn't access the daycare after school care, and then they took care of him um, until I'd pick him up after work. So yeah, we've been really lucky. Yeah, I mean, it's like I actually had a friend who for a while was working just for the health insurance because after she and I've known a lot of people in this situation. After she paid for childcare, that took her whole salary. I'm not sure if people really understand this. People who like, are responsible for making laws and stuff, that you literally can spend your entire salary on childcare. And so she was this friend of mine was just working for a while just for the health insurance because her husband was self-employed. So it's like it's pretty sad. But at the same time, the the healthcare people who are like not healthcare, childcare, the people who are working and taking care of the kids make very little money. I'm not really sure how that happens. I mean, I assume it's very expensive to provide childcare, but it's like then we also knew that people were doing this because they loved it, not because they could make a comfortable living at it. So there's that. But yeah, his preschool actually closed during the pandemic and never reopened. It had been around for like decades. So that's kind of sad. So yeah, that's why we keep seeing how the childcare situation, people want flexible work because childcare is not back to where it was. Um, because a lot of places closed and just never reopened. It's not, what else are you gonna do? So, well, I guess I have to get back to work. Um, oh, Mr. Evil, I was just about to log off. I'm sorry. I have to get back to work. This was my lunch hour. Um, are you gonna stream today? Because I might put you on in the background if you are. Although I have a lot of work to do. But some of it is stuff that I don't necessarily have to use my entire brain. Good evening, dude. That's okay. So I'll try to keep an eye out, and see the alert that tells me you're on. So, but Ilua, it was really great talking to you, and Mr. Evil, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. So this is probably not going to be one of the calmer streams for people to watch because of my ranting, but at least I feel calmer now than I did when I started because I was just starting to hyperventilate and all that really fun stuff. That happens when I get anxious. So I feel better. So even if this wasn't the most entertaining stream, I feel better. So anyway, so yes, it will be House Flipper later. Oh look, there are all these little kids going by. So I hope that your day improves and the kids don't end up killing each other, and that they don't stress you out too much because I can definitely picture that. Just throw them outside and lock the door after them. Make them stay outside, and they'll figure out something. Like what? How much could they hurt each other, right? Oh God. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Evil. Yeah, I have a lot of work to do, and everyone's out of the office. I'm at home, obviously, but so. They're bugging the neighbor. That's fine, as long as it's not you, right? I mean, that's so funny. When I was a kid, when we lived in New Jersey before we moved to Connecticut, we lived in this neighborhood that was like it was like a U shape, two streets, but it was like a U shape, so it wasn't a drive-through street, so we were pretty safe. And we used to just like this gang of kids. We used to just go from house to house and yard to yard, and just, I mean, it was like, it was like seeing a school of fish probably like go swim from place to place. So, but then when I was 8, or I think I was 8, I started getting paid by the moms to look out for the younger kids. So it was kind of cool. We used to run in out of each other's houses and all that stuff. He has 3 dogs. Yeah. Well, hey, if he has pets, that's what happens. As long as the kids are being nice, then the dogs will probably be thrilled out of their minds, right? to have some attention. So, okay, so I'm gonna get back to work. As much fun, obviously, as this is, instead of working, I'm gonna get back to work and try to get my husband to get to the post office with that letter soon, so that we can get this going. Because it's just, any parent, I'm sure, knows how I feel. So, and my son won't take my antidepressants. I've tried giving him mine because I take the same medicine. He won't take them because I'm coming out of like a months-long depression. So he will not take my medicine from me. And I keep trying to get him to do it, and he won't do it. And it sucks. But anyway, so thank you to everyone who's been watching. I really appreciate it. One is a healer that will play fetch all day. See, your sons are providing a service, getting the dog exercising and making it happy. So, hot it in your drink or food. Yeah, yeah. I wish I could make him take it. Unfortunately, I can't make him do anything anymore. luckily he's a good person. But yeah, no, I can't get him to take it. So yeah, it drives me nuts. But he's a very caring person and very protective, and so he will not let me give him my medicine. So we're at a stalemate. So anyway, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. And I also, of course, everyone watching the VOD, I appreciate if you've actually gotten to this point with my ranting. You are awesome. So um, have a good afternoon, everybody, or evening, or whatever it is where you are. And I hope you're doing well. And I will see you soon. Bye bye.